You're listening to the Shalom Sports Podcast with Jack and Gerald. Here's your host, Jack Myers and Gerald Hoover.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Shalom Sports Podcast with Jack and Gerald. He's the great Jack Myers. I'm Gerald Hoover. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet day, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So we are here, Season 3, Episode 26, and I think if I counted them all up, our 48th episode together, Jack, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
We were hoping to make it to 50, but we didn't quite get that far, but that's okay. I was looking at 26 episodes just this year, so that means the other 2 years we didn't do very many. So
yeah, I think this year we did the entire year. Past years we just did like basketball
more
season.
basketball season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of fun doing it in the fall, winter, and spring sports, especially with the changes with our varsity teams going to PIAA, and just all the newness and trying to keep everybody informed with all the interactives of that kind of whole thing and the logistics of that. And so, it felt like it was a pretty cool season. And today we have a special guest. So for the second time, actually, she was on with us in the fall. And I didn't double check, but I think it was our highest viewed podcast that we've done. So welcome, track and field head coach Nicole Diller.
Hey, guys.
Good to have you here, Nicole.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we were trying to, we wish we would have got you on sooner before, during track season or before track season. But yeah, the logistics of schedule was just hard to get you in here. But we're happy to have you on here today. And we'll get into track and field a little bit later here in our show. But first, we're going to start out by talking about the middle school girls soccer team. Jack, they just wrapped up their season this past weekend. And as they entered the postseason play in MDCC League as the number 1 seed, they had 2 games this past week. Jack, what happened in those games?
So the semifinal game versus the 5 seed Broadfording, they won 3-0 on Friday in the semifinals. Mm-hmm. And then the championship game, they lost to the 2 seed Grace 0-1.
Yeah, so I'm sure that was a tough loss in that championship game for our Lady Flames.
So that was their first goal let up all season.
First goal given up in league against the league team all season, and it just happened to come in the championship game at the wrong time. But I know it was a great season for our Lady Flames. We talked about our connection with the PIAA. With the varsity side, it's actually opened up some doors for our middle school teams as well, and I know they had a tough non-league schedule against some PIAA schools, and so I know that really prepared them well for their season, and unfortunately probably didn't end the way they wanted, but it was still a successful season for the Lady Flames, and the future looks bright as they now kind of go into the off season and train and come back stronger next season. So that's it for middle school. Now we're going to look at the varsity side. We're going to start with baseball because we're going to save the best for last, Nicole, right? The track and field. We'll save the best for last.
Exactly.
But for baseball, Jack, exciting news for our baseball team this week.
They made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs.
They were the 12th seed at one time. The 12th
Is
place.
that what? I don't know if
I
they
think
were.
they were. They were like
early on.
1-4 or something, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
They
Sneak it
made
into the
the
playoffs as the number 6 seed. Top six make the playoffs in single A boys baseball action, and they were able to end the game, I think, on a 4-game winning streak in PIAA games. And so that qualified them as the 6th seed. But in the last week, Jack, they had 3 games. What happened in those games?
So they beat Fairfield, the 9th, 9-1. Then they beat Turkeyfoot, the 8th, 4-1. They beat Southern Huntington, the 12th, 5-4.
Yeah, so they were able to win their, like I said, their last 4 games, sneak into the playoffs. So they actually have a game tonight, Jack.
Could that affect our standings?
It doesn't affect our standings,
Okay.
but from what I understand from the AD, Murray Roseman, that they were playing Everett, who's in a different district. So apparently different districts cut off their postseason records differently, and so it actually counts for Everett, but not for us. So it'll actually help them. So that's why I guess they're playing the game. And then for our boys, Jack, they are going to play tomorrow night at High Point Baptist.
That's tough because it's back-to-back in one.
Yeah, back-to-back.
One doesn't really matter.
Correct. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. They'll probably change their pitching staff a little bit in tonight's game and then be ready to go for tomorrow's game. And so hopefully, have a good game tonight, get some confidence heading into that opening round playoff game against High Point Baptist tomorrow. And then if they win that game, Jack, they'll actually go play the 2nd seed, the Christian School of York. So
where would the district championship game be at?
I didn't look at that. I know one time maybe I thought it was Penn State, but that might be states though. And I'm not sure where the district's at, but I'm sure it's on the PIAA website, District 3 website. You can go on there and check out the brackets, and I'm sure it would show up on the brackets where that would come into. So best of luck to our boys as they were able to sneak in. And Jack, that means with them qualifying for the postseason, all of our varsity teams this year that participated in PIAA qualified for postseason play.
Wow.
In our first year. So what an accomplishment and what a testimony that is to the sports program here at Shalom that Mr. Roseman has developed here in the culture of athletics. And it's just awesome to see us have success in that first year. And hopefully can use that as a foundation to build on this year and be even more successful in the future, which is going to involve you, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty cool. Yep. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So you're listening to the Shalom Sports Podcast with Jack and Juro, and we're here wrapping up the sports season here at Shalom Christian Academy as we reach pretty much the end of the road here at spring sports. We got baseball continuing here in the postseason, but now we're going to talk about track and field, and we're blessed to have our head coach here, Nicole Diller, part of our podcast today, so she can kind of fill in the audience a little bit about the track season and just all the fun and stress and just the whole everything that goes with maybe kind of a last minute decision to go with track and then figuring out where practices are. And so how would you summarize the season, Nicole?
It's funny because I get asked this question a lot. Actually, Mr. Roseman asked me this yesterday in an email, and I said, going in, I definitely was envisioning more, from a coaching standpoint, and realized pretty quickly it was more managing. With cross country, it's I coached 2 teams, so boys and girls, but it was, one distance. We were able to focus on one thing, and then you walk into the world of track and there's all the events, and even the different running events, they're all run differently. They all have different strategies. So it really ended up becoming, okay, how do we delegate? How do we, find who needs to be where and what, and really just the recruitment of coaches too. And, I laugh because this podcast, you guys, I don't know if you realize, back in the fall, we kind of prophesized over having track and field.
There you go. Awesome.
And then it came to fruition.
That's right.
Kind of last minute, like you said, Juro. I was approached, I want to say it was like the end of February, kind of a last minute thing. Hey, do you think we could do it? And I was like, game on. If I have a window, you better bet we're going to try this.
Sure.
And sure enough, the interest was just overwhelming. We had 32 kids on the roster this year, 32 kids for first year, and they stuck with it. And it was a lot of learning as we go along. Every track meet was run differently. When I say that, meaning like how things were going to be timed, who needed to check and where, all the things. So it was really a lot of learning on the ground. I'm definitely more prepared for next year.
Sure.
And again, this year we were only able to offer most of the running events, not the relays. That will come next year. And then we were gifted a high jump from Fairfield High School.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So we were able to offer high jumping. So with that said, with the bare bones we had and pretty much no preseason, we did pretty well.
Yeah,
so
that's exciting.
Yeah, it was really
not even having a track on
campus
having a track,
here. Guys.
You're practicing in the parking lot, and I know leaving after school some days it was just like you just had to be careful because you pull out and next thing you know some sprinters would go flying past you, and it's like but making
the waves
use
of sprinters, and thank you to the Shalom community and parents and just for being patient with us during this season, because we kind of with all the construction going on, there just really wasn't a lot of space, and we had to get creative. And it really took the whole community to kind of gather around us and encourage us. And
how many total events are there in like one meet?
Okay, so there's a lot of events. For us, I want to say we only competed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events. But there's a lot more than that. So like I said,
are you going to do hurdles next year?
Yeah. Okay. Great question, Jack. So
Nice
we
job.
were also just gifted from Unionville High School some hurdles. I got 10 hurdles in the barn currently. So
I saw them on the back of Josh's truck the other day, so I was like, oh, man, we found some hurdles.
Thanks to my brother-in-law. Shout out
Nice.
to Drew Moister. So, yeah, so we will have hurdles next year. Honestly, our goal is to have all the events next year.
Okay.
Now, I say that.
So there's how many?
Okay,
like, total?
so we competed that this year. There's also 2 relay races. So there's the 4x800, 4x100. And then we have... there's 3 hurdle events. I want to say there's the 100 hurdles, 150 meter hurdles, and then the 300 meter hurdles. And then you got the long jump, triple jump, javelin, shot put, discus. Yeah. Oh, the one we may not get next year is the pole vault.
That would be tricky.
That would be tricky. Just the cost for the equipment. And again, as you all know, Shalom is growing. We're kind of limited in space right now. In the future, that would be great.
So is there going to be a track and field place here, like a little track eventually?
I think eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
Now, what the timeline of eventually is probably up in the air, but yeah. We're in the middle of another big project right now, so we're trying to kind of finish that one up. But that'd be pretty cool across the road. We have plenty of acreage over there where a track would look pretty cool over there.
And I will say, until that point, the beauty of PIAA, and I will say this till I'm blue in the face, is just the amount of connections that we've been able to make with other schools. The door has just been open this season. I saw it in cross country. I saw it in basketball. I saw it in track and field. Schools are so excited to see Shalom be able to participate in these sports. And they are so open to helping us. JB, their coach, has been amazing. Very open to us working with them. Greencastle, shout out to Greencastle track. We were able to practice every Saturday on their track in the mornings.
That's pretty cool. So you actually had a track to practice on one day a week. I'm sure that was a huge help for you guys.
Huge help. And so, yes, goal, our own track would be amazing. But for now, this is very doable and very awesome that we have a community around us that are welcoming it.
That's pretty cool. And so, just what a blessing it is to have those other schools coming around us and helping us out, knowing that, it's tough when you're for a couple years to get, especially when you're not only into a new league with your established sports, but trying something new like track and field, which is so big, like you were talking about. There's so many different events where you have basketball, you just focus on basketball. Cross country, it's 3.1 miles.
Yes.
Track and field is all over the place.
It's all over the place.
And a shout out to your coaches, and you can list them off, because I think I tried to one time, and I think I left a couple people out. But if you want to talk about your coaches,
definitely.
I'm sure that's
huge shout out to my coaches. This would not have been possible without them, especially on a very late notice. Coach Harris, Terry Harris, he is my assistant. Phenomenal, super talented. He actually ran track and coached track before, so he had that experience. And then I had Ben Davis. He helped me with the middle distance, long distance. He ran track in college.
Okay.
Of course, Coach Book, Derek Book. He's my cross country assistant. He really stepped in and helped me with the long distance runners.
That's cool.
And then Coach Justin Paisley, who was my jumping coach. Super fun guy. He did jumping in high school and was able to get the jumping events established.
Nice.
So between all of us, we worked hard.
You sure did.
And I tell you what, next year, doors open. If you're a parent out there, or someone who's done track in the past, who's interested in wanting to help out with any type of throwing event, even long jumping, Coach Bouchel, I have your number for hurdles.
Nice.
I hear you were a hurdler
there
back in the day in college. Even just volunteering for a day or 2 days a week to just kind of hone in on the skills with these kids, and then we can, do the rest.
Oh, that'd be great.
It takes a community.
It takes a village.
It takes a village.
Yeah. So that's pretty
doable.
cool, and so awesome. Like last minute to even get your coaches
Yes.
on board as well, and that's pretty cool that so many stepped up to help you out. And I think that it speaks to the community of Shalom when somebody sees a need and they have, hey, I can help with that.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure I can't speak for them, but I know from personal experience with other things, you pour into something, you get more blessing out of it than what you are to somebody else. And that's the truly amazing part of it.
It
and
is.
I'm not sure how that happens, but God's got it all figured out, and it's pretty an amazing concept.
It is.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So, yeah, that's pretty exciting. So I had to ask, and maybe it's based on the season, do you like cross country or track better? It's kind of like naming your favorite child, right?
If you ask my cross country runners, they will hands down say cross country. Like if anything, I feel like track made them realize how much they want cross country. And I say that because, running a 1600 or even a 3200, in your mind you're thinking, okay, if I can run 5Ks, 3 times a week, a 2 mile on a track should be nothing. But I mean, these kids are fast. I mean, the amount of time, the district qualifying times, the mile for boys, I want to say is like a sub 4:30.
Wow.
Like the competition level is so high. And so for our boys, I want to say, Will Davis, Shay Kane, shout out. They had a great season, but it was an eye-opening season. I want to say they were like low 5s. So, we got 30 seconds to shave to be making districts, which I do believe will come. Again, this was such a new experience for us. We didn't have that preseason. Next year, it's going to be different.
For sure.
And we got goals now. So, but with that said, all of them are like, take me to cross country. And I love it because go ahead.
The difference from cross country is that like in the woods, you're kind of like in the woods running, or
yes. So the big difference is the mileage. Like it's just a longer race. It's different strategies. Yes, you're in the woods, different courses.
But then it's just like a track, like around and around.
Correct. Yeah. Versus running around a track. Yes, 4 times. Or 8 times if you're in the 32. And it's just a whole different, it's just a different feel. You're running, different muscles. I mean, we learned that too. I think the biggest takeaway for me as a coach in track and field, and actually I'll say this because I was very blessed to be able to coach basketball this year, cross country, and across the board. I think most coaches will agree with me. Strength training is huge, especially now that we're in the PIAA and we're competing against schools that have their athletes working out in their weight rooms. I want to say all the time.
Maybe we should talk to Mr. Rosen about getting a weight room.
There you go. Yeah.
I think it's out there. I think people know. But, talking even the other day to the JB coach, he's meeting with track kids before school,
right?
Doing weight room 5:30, 6, and then they're going to school. And so, this is the stuff. Yeah, we don't have those resources here at Shalom, but you can do that at other places.
Correct. You
right?
can make that happen.
Correct. And it's like, find that core group of friends and commit to it. My biggest advice to student athletes is just the slow consistency, right? Like if you're making those daily habits, that will pay off. When you're consistent in your strength training, when you're consistent, even in your diet and all the things, it'll pay off. So, but especially for track and field, man, those sprinters, that is a whole different.
Yeah, sprinting, and then even some of the distance ones, it's almost a sprint for the whole distance, kind of.
Yes. Ask anyone on my team. It was pulling teeth to get anyone to run the 400.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, the 400, come on, it's one time around a track. But it is one time sprinting around a track.
It's
and
a
when
full
you see
sprint
some
the
of
whole
these
way.
student athletes from these other schools do it, it is just,
they
are cooking, and it is fun to watch.
I'm sure. So at a track meet, do they typically do heats, or are they mostly just one event? You're doing one 400, and that's all you got?
No, there are heats.
There are heats,
and the events that have the most heats would be the sprints.
Yeah.
So the 100-meter, 200-meter dash, sometimes the 400. You're just going to have, at the Invitational. So our last meet was actually an Invitational up at Green Castle. It was called the Last Chance Invitational. So it was, most of the schools sent their top athletes who hadn't quite qualified for districts yet. It was like their last chance to get those times. And I want to say there was 6 heats in the 100.
Okay, wow.
And the bigger event or the bigger invitationals like that, the longer track meets are. I mean, you show up at 3. We didn't leave till 8:30. Maybe.
Oh, wow.
And even a normal track meet for us, you show up around 4 and you're still not leaving till like 6:37. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it just depends on how many kids sign up for each event. Now for
Sure.
the 20 or the 3200 and the 1600, sometimes they'll just run them in one.
Just one bunch.
heat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or in some cases, we even ran the boys and girls together.
Is that right?
Yes.
Really?
Just to make time and efficient.
So in those events, you don't have to be in the same lane the whole time. You
Correct.
just kind of run in a group.
Yes.
And,
So I think it's anything after the 400 meter, you can then get into other lanes.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
400, 200, 100s, you got to stay in your
lane. Yeah.
And then it's like the staggered starts.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot to learn there. I don't know much
so
about
much.
track
The
and
only
field.
thing that I know track and field from is the Olympics. That's the only time I've ever watched
And
it.
it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Jack, you got to try it next year. I'm telling you,
Maybe.
there's something for everyone. Jack
Mm-hmm.
asked me this, and
Yeah.
you can ask me.
I'll ask my question again. What advice would you give, or like encouragement would you give for somebody that is not sure if they want to do track and field?
My advice to them is to just try it out. And I am a pretty laid back coach when I say, come to the practices, try it out. If you don't like it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But give it a try, because you just don't know. And with track, there is seriously something for everyone. I mean, I had runners in the beginning of the year start running the 100, realize real quick, okay, I am not a 100-meter runner. And then we switched them to like the 800. They were able to try the 1600. My daughter, Chloe Diller, is a prime example of that. She only wanted to do sprints. So she did her sprints, and she was okay. But I got her to do the 1600 towards the end of the season. At that Green Castle, she came in 3rd place overall.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I
First
know.
time doing it.
I'm just like, do you really want to play volleyball? But it's okay. We won't go there.
Papa Diller might have something to say about that.
So, but again, she wouldn't have known, right? Unless
Sure.
she would have tried it. And that's just the running events. Next year, I can't even imagine once we have long jump, and even some of these throwing events. There's something for everyone. And I will say, and you can ask any of the track team members, there's a lot of fun in it, right? So it's like, let's just say you're a 200-meter runner. That's all you're running. You show up at 4, you're technically not running till like 5:30 because you're one of the last events.
Yeah.
I mean, you're there hanging out with the team,
Sure. Yeah.
meeting other students from other schools, getting to cheer on other races. It is such a fun environment. I think cross country is very fun and, kind of connecting, but there's something about track. It's a very social sport. I will say that.
Correct. Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you may not think they're working hard, but they are. But there's definitely breaks, right? Not so much for the coaches, but for the athletes. But with those breaks, it's such an opportunity. And the thing I want to say, just again, being in the PIAA has just opened up so many doors for Shalom to be that light in this community and to represent Jesus. And I saw that firsthand, especially in track and field, seeing my athletes gather around other athletes and pray over them before events.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
And being encouraging. Coach Harris can vow for that. I mean, there was just so many moments this season that I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this. Like, this is what it's all about.
That's pretty cool.
So,
yeah, that makes
yeah.
it special.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than just the competition.
Yeah.
It's all the other stuff. The
Yeah.
relationships, the praying over, encouraging,
Yes.
supportive role. Yeah. That's what's pretty cool about it.
Yep.
And I would say, like, compared cross country to track and field's a little more spectator friendly sport, where I say, like, cross country, they're all, like, all over 10-acre property, and you like see
This
them
is
bits
true.
and pieces. Now you can hang out at the finish line. That's the exciting part. But track, you can you sit in the stands, and it all happens right in front of you.
Yes.
So it's a much
As a spectator, you got to train to be a spectator
Yeah.
for cross
I've been to cross country races where I felt like I ran more than the kids. Like, you're running here and there, and you're following the crowd because you're at a
It's
course where
true.
you're not familiar with. You just follow the people because they're going to the next spot where they see them, and then they run over to this spot, and they're like,
Yes.
I thought the kids were running, not me. And I'm like out of breath, but it is fun.
Make it to the finish.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
fun. So that's
So how
pretty
many
cool.
invitationals did you have, or meets?
Yep. So we were able to compete in, I want to say 6. I think we ended up with 6. We
Nice.
started off slow, but we ended with 6, and 2 of them were invitationals. We did the Northern York Small School Invitational, and then we just did the Green Castle.
So what's the difference between an invitational and
Good question. So with an invitational, it's like 10 schools. It's just a bunch of different schools competing versus the regular track meets. It's usually a dual meet. So it's between another school or a tri meet, which we did a lot of those.
Yeah.
So it's just a smaller, less competition. I say that, there's still like, I like the weekly meets because then you have runners that you can run as many as you want in the 100 meters versus like at the invitationals, I can only run most of the time like 4 or 5 of my top runners in that heat. Right.
Yeah.
So like right now I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I had 9 girls running the 200 meter.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't run all of them, at the invitationals, but yet at the other meets they could run.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. The invitationals are a lot more competitive too.
Sure.
Which it's like that in cross country.
Correct. Yeah.
And usually that's where the kids get the PR. So, and I would say the timing is a lot more accurate at invitationals because we have to give them our rosters ahead of time, and then everything is usually put on. It's called mile split, where it's all automated, versus the handheld times.
Oh, okay.
For some of these other schools, which.
So at your meets, you're using a lot of stopwatches and stuff?
Yes.
Really? That's interesting.
We learned that at the first meet at JV. I made the mistake of not knowing we should have been timing our own athletes. Like I just assumed the schools had that prepared, and they did. But then sometimes a stopwatch didn't go off, or and unfortunately, a lot of our kids didn't get their times in.
Yeah.
But we learn, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Every
it's a big
meet,
learning
like
experience.
I said, is run differently. You got to go in just prepared for all the fighters.
So six events you did this year. What's an ideal season? What would you consider like 10, 12?
So I will say I was told in the beginning of the season that in order to have relays, this is why we didn't have relays, you have to be in at least 8 meets.
Okay.
So goal next year is the minimum 8. And then, I would be open to 10 at least. Again, the more meets, the more opportunities you have for your athletes to get that time to qualify for districts or leagues. So and again, we came in so late. Everyone's schedule was already made. So the fact that we were able to have what we had was just like a blessing.
Sure.
So next year, definitely hoping to get more.
And then the following year, we'll actually be in a league. So that would really help us as far as scheduling.
Correct.
Events.
That'll be interesting how that works with track and even with cross country. But yeah, I know with cross country, I don't think there is necessarily a minimum. Those are just more, you want to be at the invitationals. Where with track, there was more of a requirement of how many. And part of the reason why we as a team couldn't really qualify for districts this year is because we just didn't have a full team, right? Like if you look at our scores, we were a lot lower than a lot of the other teams we competed against, but partly because we didn't have all of the events. Yeah. Right? Like we weren't
You're not
competing.
Scoring because you don't have people in those events.
Exactly. But if you would have scored us with just the running events against these other schools, we were right there.
That's awesome.
Which is, again, says so much about Shalom.
Correct.
And Shalom Athletics. Like, we're there.
That's
we
pretty
made
cool.
a good choice. Like, kudos to everyone who fought for that. Like, yeah, I'm just so pro it because I just see the benefits. I see the competition. I see the goals. I see, how it's just encouraging kids to try and the opportunities to even have track and field.
For sure.
How awesome is this?
Yeah.
Right? So
how many more in cross country do you think you have now that
oh
you
my
came
goodness.
out for track? They're going to come out for cross country now.
So many.
That's pretty cool too. Yeah,
I'm
it's
so
a recruiting
pumped
tool.
about that. I was definitely. At least 4 or 5 boys.
Nice.
Said yes, we want to do cross country, and I'm working on the girls, and it just is going to feed into that program. It's just a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a few basketball players might mix in every once in a while too. You never know, right, Jack?
Right.
He's asking a lot of questions. So
I'm all about it, Jack.
He's thinking about it.
Let me tell you, Sydney Moore, you better be listening. You're on my list too.
Yeah, she had some good times. I saw.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, that's
she
great.
She was my #1 sprinter. Honestly, she crushed it. And this is her opening year, freshman, right? We have how many more years?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too, right? 2 seniors on the team this year, so a majority of them will all be back. Plus,
oh my goodness,
yeah.
I want to say a huge majority of my team were the sophomore and freshman class.
Yeah, so that's cool too. That you're building a program with those younger kids, and they're going to filter all the way up through, and then even like, do you see something maybe not actually happening in middle school, but you can get kind of middle school involved a little bit, maybe coming into a practice or something like that, just kind of introduce them to the sport. That way, by the time they get to their freshman year, they're like, hey, this is something I definitely want to check out.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Shout out to Owen Book and Johnny Wright. They were my managers this year. They came to all of our meets. They were helping me time, making sure kids get to their event to check in so they don't miss their running event. They were huge help.
That's cool.
So, yes, I am always, if you're a middle schooler out there and you may be thinking, I may be interested in someday, reach out to me because I'm all about including them, having you come out, check it out, help us out.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Down the road, middle school, absolutely.
Yeah. That's going to be
all
pretty.
The things.
That's right. That would be really cool. Yeah. But, someday you do invest in a track. It's eventually at some point, you're going to want to use it. So you get that middle school out there using it. I'm sure gym classes would be using it, different things like that.
Every sport could use it.
Correct. Yeah.
I'd have the basketball team out there doing ladders on the bleachers. Like,
of course.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, there you go.
The track is for all sports.
For sure.
Honestly.
The variety of track is what's pretty cool about it. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
we didn't talk about it a little bit, but I think, so you talked about teams qualifying for postseason, but it's kind of like cross country where you can qualify as a team or you can just qualify as individuals as well.
Yes,
So
very much so.
there's
It's a lot like
opportunities
cross
there.
country in that way. So, yep. And that's the other beauty of this. You know what I mean? Like, try it. You may not do well as a team, but like, who knows? You may be a secret jumper out there. Didn't even know you had it. And, oh, that's a funny story. So, Jesse Jet Ryan, he was my, number one 200, 100 meter runner all season. Well, he kind of pulled something in his leg towards the end of the season. So he was like, I might try high jump. He goes and jumps like, I forget what did he hit? I don't know. It was this crazy high jump, like higher than anyone's been jumping. I'm like, why haven't you been jumping?
You should just do all the events.
Exactly. Like, you just don't know. Yes, actually, that's a good point, Jack. Next year, I'm just going to circulate every practice. All right, you got to try everything.
There you go.
Because you just don't
never know.
Yeah, your potential. So, anyway.
Could an athlete do every event?
No, good question. So you are limited to 4 events.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah. Which is
There
probably
is
a good
actually
thing.
a limit.
Like, you could wear somebody out.
Yeah, you could. Well, and actually, that's a good point, too. Because I did have some that were really good, at 4 different events. And so, and then the way it starts, you have to really space out. Okay, are you actually going to do the 1600 and the 400? Because they're back to back.
If they're back to back, yeah.
So you have to kind of think through, which one is going to be your number one event, and then kind of cater around that. So even though you're able to do all 4, it might not be the wisest thing if you're going for that PR.
And are most invitationals and meets, like the schedule kind of the same for all of them, where the events kind of all line up the same? So going in.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
you do this
relay,
one, there's 2
hurdles,
breaks, and then
100 meters, 1600, 400, hurdles, yep.
They all follow
800,
the
200,
same.
3200.
Yeah, that's probably wise that they do that. So
it is.
Well, that's super exciting, Nicole. I'm glad you were able to come in and talk about it. I can tell your passion for it, and I just am excited for Shalom and the opportunity for our athletes because, like you said, I don't know. I should have looked at your roster, but I'm guessing there was so many on there that don't really participate in other sports. Like this is kind of for them, and that's what I like to see because I like to see students involved in extracurricular activities at their school because the academics are important, but the extracurricular I feel is just as important because that's where relationships are developed. That's where skills are toned and just the discipline is taught. And it's just such a
all the things.
Good opportunity. And so
many students. I mean, I met so many new students. I feel like I know a lot of students, and I met so many new students just by doing this.
Yeah.
And I know they all met each other. It's just like a beautiful thing.
It is cool.
So,
one big happy family.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's
so,
great.
well, thanks for being the leader for that. I know just your passion for it carries over and is contagious to other people, and just the opportunity for other coaches to step up.
Yes.
That was pretty cool, and just kids to come out and learn something different. So
it was a blessing to be a
pretty
part
cool.
of it. And I definitely thank you, Mr. Roseman, for just giving us the opportunity. And I'm excited to see it grow and in the years to come. And Jack, you will always have a spot. Come on out next year.
If not, maybe he could do the play-by-play.
Yeah, that's true.
Track. Can you imagine live streaming a track and field event? That would be pretty fun.
That would be interesting.
That would be very
you
interesting.
Would be on your toes.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, cool. Thanks again for coming in, Nicole. Appreciate your dedication and you giving into the program. And so that's going to wrap up our last episode, Jack, which is kind of bittersweet. Last episode for us. I'm not saying it's the last podcast for Shalom. It's the last podcast for us, but the future's bright. I'm leaving it in your hands. I know you can take it from here, and that's what leaders do. They train up other leaders and have them take over. So this is me handing it. We talked about relays. I'm handing off the baton to Jack. But I heard there's maybe some possibilities of some future things coming along that I think are going to work out well that will continue on this podcast. And I just go back to when we kind of started this podcast. It kind of came after basketball season, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think I was in 6th grade.
Yeah, we were sad that, we weren't commentating basketball. And I think I threw it out there. We should start a podcast. And you just lit up and yeah, let's do it. And then I was like, what did I just get myself into? But it's been a lot of fun. And I just enjoy bringing the information to the school family because there is a lot going on in athletics here. And I just feel like this is a way where people could tune in each week and just kind of get caught up on what's happened, what's coming up, and different things. And I felt like, especially this year being the first year in the PIAA, just keeping people informed because it looked a lot different than what we were.
And this was definitely the most fun season.
It definitely was. You could tell by
the podcast and do the broadcast. It was the most fun to do.
Yep, and so
than all the other ones.
Yeah, I always hold a special place in my heart with you, Jack. So appreciate all you've done. It's been a pleasure, and just enjoyed the opportunities we had, just talking sports, commentating basketball, and just bringing a little different perspective to sports here at Shalom. So.
Honestly, it is so entertaining listening to you guys, especially when you're emceeing a sport. I go back to basketball playoffs. I mean, that one game in York,
that's probably my most favorite game.
Oh that was definitely my favorite game.
The boys semifinal game at York.
Watching it on TV and listening to you guys, and the excitement was contagious. I just wanted to be there. I felt like I was there.
I tell people part of it was the excitement. Part of it is we were standing next to each other and we had to yell just to hear each other.
And then the mics were cracking.
The mics were cracking.
That was the best part.
We didn't have
afterwards.
This nice system with the headphones. We had the older system where you can't hear it in the ear, so you basically have to be close to each other. It was so loud, and what a fun environment. That was probably my most favorite game. So
that was amazing.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. So
Gerald, we're gonna miss you.
Oh,
you have been such a huge part of this, obviously, this school, this program, and thank you.
Sure,
thank
you're
you
welcome.
for all that you've done, the extra time. I know a little bit as a coach how much time, and you go above and beyond.
Well, thank you.
I really do think you're
happy to do it,
and you've just done amazing.
Shout out to my wife. She's the one that probably sacrificed the most.
Shout out to Roxanne.
She spent many nights at home by herself, but able to tune in and listen to me on the live stream. But
I remember in 6th grade and 5th grade, my first year was in 5th grade. I remember you and Mrs. Hoover doing the live stream together then. That'd be pretty cool to do it with you.
Yeah. That was, I got to do a couple games with Mrs. Hoover, and I tell her she has probably a higher basketball IQ than I do.
I agree with that.
She's very intelligent with the game, and so it was always fun to have her because she could really articulate what was happening on the court for the fans, and that was always pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
We'll always have those memories. We can always pull up YouTube and go back and listen to those games. So that's pretty cool. But excited for where things are going. We kind of got it established, and so now we're handing it off for the next people to take it over, and I feel it's in good hands, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And I'll be popping in every once in a while. I won't be a stranger here, and for those nights that I don't make it, I'm going to be just sitting in my living room, just happen to turn it on and just feel like I'm part of the sports program here at Shalom. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to that. So thanks, everybody. It's great having you all here. And that's a wrap up for our 2024-25 sports season here at Shalom. And we look forward to a great summer and coming back next fall and starting it back over again. So
train hard.
Yeah, that's right. Train hard, as Coach Diller said, especially you cross country and track students. So thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Shalom Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed today's content, please hit the subscribe button. That will notify you of future content.